Hi there, this is Erica DELSIGNORE, and I'm the founder of Daily Lead Campaign, where we bring you leads through social media lead generation and video marketing. And you are watching my video interview series called Great Minds, Great Marketing, and I am so excited about today's guest. He has been an entrepreneur since he was 14. Mr. Justin Miller, founder of Profit 911, has just sold his DJ business that he started when he was 14 years old. And he's had several other businesses over the years. He really knows how to bring things to life. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. So Justin, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, taking the time to bring so much value to my audience.
I'm happy to be here. This is a blast, live in the internet world.
Absolutely. So I would love to start with just your incredible story of becoming an entrepreneur. Now, I know most people start with newspaper routes or maybe a lemonade stand, but you really started with something that brought in some real cash, and you were able to sell for a lot of money so many years later. So why don't we start with how that went?
Well, that's not to say I didn't have the lemonade stand and all that fun stuff too.
Yeah, right.
Actually, before I started, the DJ business was my first real business, but before I started that, I detasseled corn. Where did you grow up? What part of the country?
Well, let's see. I would say Maine for most of the time,
Okay,
but I was born in Tennessee, so yeah, I know about corn.
Okay, so to anyone that hasn't been around this area, that means nothing. But detasseling corn is basically, there should be a machine for it, but I guess there's not, and you can have this job when you're 13 years old, and you go to the field and pull parts off the plants. It's slave labor for young children. So I did that for a summer, and I saved up just enough money to buy two big loudspeakers and declared myself a disc jockey. And yeah, I actually was doing weddings before I could even drive. I had to have my parents drive me to people's weddings, which is, I always wonder what they thought when I showed up, but they were always happy when it was all said and done. But yeah, I did that, and gosh, the business was over 20 years old here, and I sold it earlier this year. But the funny part is the whole time I ran that business, and it was a full-time operation with staff and everything, but I always considered myself, kind of a marketer that happened to own a DJ business.
Yep.
And at some point, the DJ business got in the way of the marketing business, so it was time to part ways and move on, which puts me kind of where I'm at now.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, so now what you're doing is you're helping other DJs market their businesses. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of DJs because, it's my background, but I help all business owners. Really what I help them with is automation. So I am kind of like a geek, process numbers. I like to build a machine that works right every time, and therefore, staff kind of gets in the way. So I like computers. I like things that do what you tell them to do. So I help people put processes in place in their business that they can automate and yield. Basically, the end goal is consistent results, which ends up making more money and more time for the owner.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to that, because I provide the leads through social media for my clients, and if they don't have those processes in place and they don't have the lead follow-up and conversion automated, then they just don't do as well as my clients that have all of that set up. So, I know there's funnels and there's things like that, but I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about, what do you mean by automation and that?
Well, sure. Let's back up. There's like two ways to make it successful. So you get them the leads. One of two things is either going to happen. Either A, there's going to be a lot of hustle and manual labor to create a sale, or B, there's going to be a lot of process and system to make the sale. Now, ideally, there's always a combination of both, but I can't help people on the hustle side. I'm not like a great motivator or anything, but yeah. I can help them be a little more lazy and still make the sale. So some of the things we put in place is like customer relationship software, and there's 8,000 tools, text message marketing, just filling in the gaps so they don't drop people. Or I've run businesses that were run on hustle. You get that lead and you write it down and you follow up a couple of times, and then where's that piece of paper go? It disappears, and that's lost money. So I prevent that from happening.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, I grew up in sales myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And the thing is that only 10% of the people might be ready to buy from you right now. And what happens when 6 months from now they are ready to buy, and you've completely lost track of
Yeah, it's,
those
it's a lot easier to make a
clients.
sale, by the way, when someone already wants to buy.
Yeah,
So it's our job as business owners to be there when they're ready to buy, and to have a mechanism where people are able to tell you when they want input. So more and more and more by the day with the internet, here the buying process is different now. People
yeah,
find out whatever information they want, and they're going to find it out either from you, or if you are withholding it from somebody else. I prefer to control the process and be the one that gives that to them. Um, but then it's our job to stay in front of them. So at the point they're interested, then we can put forth effort. Because the problem I ran into in my business was success. You hit up against how many hours you're willing or physically able to work. And at some point, you have to find a way to scale. You can add more people, add more systems, or both. I found it much cheaper to add systems, and they kind of do the same thing over and over, whereas people require a little more oversight.
oh yeah, yeah. You know what? The people are the most expensive thing, and they are unpredictable because they're people.
Yep. They,
So,
they play a role, and they don't like to do things that machines can do. Let's face it. If
oh,
they're doing trivial tasks that they know could easily be replaced, and they could focus on things that demand a little more of them, require a little more thought, they're happier too.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, having the right butts in the right seats, and sometimes it's a computer.
Yeah, so,
So
someone
why
usually
don't
has
you
to
give us,
program that, but yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. Why don't you give us just an example? I mean, there's a lot of discussion about funnels out there, and funnels that convert. And I talk to some of my clients, and they'll say, you know what, I can't move forward this until I get this just right, or the funnel we have really isn't converting. We're looking at other things that we need to do. Talk about some of the factors involved, if you don't mind, um, and what helps a funnel be converting as opposed to not. And I know there's a lot of things that vary in this, but just if you can give us a few ideas.
Sure, I'll give you super high level. But even before that, before I dig into that though, and this is normal, you automatically went to the sales funnel, but the funny thing is we can like automate the delivery too. So we have things that happen after the sale's made. But to your question, so things that can affect how well a sales funnel or a sales process, whatever you want to call it, works. Number one is the people coming in. So that has a little more to do with skilled marketing of writing to you who you want to come in. The second is how long is their buying process. So in my wedding company, someone may come into our system and become a lead 6 or 12 months before they actually are going to make a purchase, which
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
which is a
right.
crazy amount of time.
It
Um,
is.
so without something to fill the gap, it's impossible. You're gonna lose the sale to someone that has something to fill the gap. Also, transaction amount, so average ticket amount. So let's say we're selling something online for $20 versus selling a service for 4,000. Completely different process, different type of funnel, more steps, more in depth. One final point is multimedia. So immediately when people think funnels, they're thinking like email follow-up and just web pages, right? But there still are more steps. So there still is physical intervention when it's justified of a human being calling or texting. We have automated text we can use. Physical mail going out. I'm a huge believer in physical mail. It's grown many of my companies in addition to everything else. So I'll hit them any way I can. And that all depends on who it is, what you're selling, how much, the basic W questions, right?
Right.
And beyond
We
that,
were
it's just
just going, I'm
knowledge.
only laughing because we just were going over this with my 4-year-old yesterday. I guess they just started talking about this at preschool, and she's doing the how, what, why, who, where. It's
Isn't that
hilarious.
funny? So yeah, that's how early
Just
it
last
gets
night.
ingrained in our lives, and then at some point we decide to overcomplicate life, and we
Yeah.
got to bring it back down to the basics to make it successful again.
Yes, absolutely.
And then
So,
I
yeah,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to tell you the opposite problem people have then is if they're real geeky like me, is we just want to like program the perfect system, but we failed to put people in to see if it worked.
Right.
So there is that balancing act of testing and trying as we go, and it's never perfect.
No.
It's always a process, always improving. As we grow as business owners, as the customers change their habits, we have to change ours.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, there's a lot out there with technology, and as you can see today, just when we were starting off, we had a little bit of an audio problem, and we had already gone live, and we had to just try a couple things, fix it. But that's the human element of it. That was something that I didn't do right, and
Hey, I
didn't
don't
make
even
it.
know if we're live now, but if people are watching this, they got to it somehow.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it went live again, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm afraid to check.
I had someone message me and tell me I broke the internet, so I guess it happens.
Okay, are you Kim Kardashian?
Right.
Isn't that what they said?
Yeah,
Oh,
I can't take the internet down. I'm not that powerful.
oh my God. I think that we are. Let's see. I'm just gonna check really quick. Whoops. Oopsie. Here we go. There's one that is. Uh, yeah, we both of them are on there.
All
I'm
right,
gonna take the other one down.
we'll share some more links later.
Yeah, exactly. So we're set. So why don't we talk a little bit about, because with my crowd, we like to talk about, just business in general, lessons learned. You had a business for 20 years, plus this additional info marketing business. And by the way, before I go with this question, how long has it been with the info marketing business?
So info marketing, I've been studying for 9 years now, and actively running the consulting business for about 2.5 years.
Okay, so this is something that you're running in addition to your 20-year business, which you just sold. And so during that time, there must have been some ups and downs. I wanted to see if you would share with us some lessons learned that maybe it was something that you figured out, maybe it was just it didn't get figured out, you had to learn a lesson from it and move on. But it's always interesting to hear what an entrepreneur, especially a young entrepreneur like you that has had so many years of information, might say to this question.
Yeah, well, I'll take you back younger to some failures, because they're the biggest learning things I've had. Is as an entrepreneur, when we fail and it costs us a lot of money, we learn a lesson really quickly
Yes.
that we might not have learned. It might not have stayed with us as well if someone just told it to us. So probably my first or second year of college, I decided we were going to launch a mobile teen nightclub, which wasn't a unique idea by any means, but it was our first kind of little getting our feet wet in it. And we didn't just get our feet wet, we went all in. So what we did is we rented out a huge facility here that I think our capacity was 1,000 people we could have. And this is basically a big dance with a ton of bells and
Right.
whistles. It's a high school
Right.
dance, not to a high school. It's to the greater population of an area. Big video walls, confetti cannons, black lights, you name it. We had T-shirts printed. I even owned like the security metal detector wands.
Wow. You sound
Uh,
like such a troublemaker.
yeah, yeah, isn't that funny? I mean, I wish I had a ticket to show you, because they were Ticketmaster tickets. We had to go through Ticketmaster at the place we rented.
Wow.
Um, and we promoted that primarily with radio on the top 40 station. And this is back when radio was actually what you listened to for music before
Right.
streaming or anything. And we basically owned that station for about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the event. So like every commercial break, not during school hours, but outside of them, we would have a
Right.
commercial on. We did live broadcasts and things like that.
Wow.
So fast forward to, I don't know if it was a Friday or Saturday night. I can't remember anymore. I think it was a Friday night. And we're all set up, which is a day process in itself. We open the doors for 7 or 8 p.m. start, and there's not many people there.
Oh.
We ended up having, I think, 50 people in the door,
Okay.
which my expenses were well over $10,000. So
Uh,
50 people didn't really cut it. The funny part is, though, I promoted really well to the press. So the newspaper reporters were there. So we had a headline the next day, plenty of room on the dance floor. I saved that too. So I saved the Ticketmaster ticket and the plenty of room on the dance floor. So we did a kind of an autopsy afterwards. What the heck happened on this thing? And we launched a couple more, but it was over-reliance on one media. We did the same event again, like much lower budget because we were forced to at that point, and handed out flyers and had some street teams and everything, and did pretty well. So over-reliance on one media is deadly. It can work, and it has in other businesses of mine, but if that media changes, you're done.
Right.
You know, even if that was successful, now the game has changed with radio.
Yeah.
I rarely listen to, FM radio anymore. So that was one huge one. I'll give you one more that's a little quicker here and has a different lesson in it. And that was one of my other passions, which was Halloween and haunted houses. So growing up, I built haunted houses probably my dad more built them, but I talked him into it, in our garage, and everyone would come through, and people remembered these for like a decade later. But I decided to have a commercial haunted house. So we built this out in the basement of a municipal building, and we were set to open. It was probably the first weekend in October, and the night before, or the day before we were going to get open, I got a call that we were having some surprise inspections from different departments in the city.
Okay.
And we were shut down before we opened. Mainly fire code violations we couldn't come to an agreement on. We were shut down before we opened. So everything was in place, all the expenses again. And what did we do? Well, I didn't really just give up. We got as many people as we could. We moved to a different location, a different jurisdiction, and we opened up something similar to recoup some investment. So that's kind of pivoting as an owner, and we learned some things about dotting T's and crossing I's on that one as well. But those are the kind of things that stick with you. And then on the other end of the spectrum, successes I've had. So the biggest successes I've had have been due to having a foundation in place, waiting for an opportunity. So what I mean by that is one huge one in my event business was the photo booth craze. So I'm sure everyone's seen them if you've been to a wedding in the past 5 years, or an event, some sort of photo booth. So we were the very first within about 150 miles of our location to get one of those. And we did exceedingly well with it, and the primary reason was I had all these marketing systems in place already for other areas and other companies, so I was able to immediately duplicate and just copy, paste, change services, and launch. And from day one, we were cash positive. Actually, we paid for the first booth off deposits, and doubled in size the same way, and then doubled in size, and we did that 3 times actually. So I'm huge in having things in place for the right opportunity. Now, if you know you're sitting on a good opportunity and cash is coming in and you know you could be doing things better, then we just got to, shore up some things and put fuel on the fire, and that's a great place to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You doubled down and it seemed to work for you.
Yeah. Well, I also didn't gamble as much, so I'm much more risk averse compared to where I used to be as an entrepreneur. Something about family, young kids, growing up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it causes you to be a little more careful, evaluate a little better, and kind of stick to what works. And I think that's a huge lesson as well. Or seek out advice from people that have already been there rather than trying to reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely. You can't take those, as big of a risk, and you can learn from other people's mistakes before you make them on your own, which is fantastic. And I know that's one of the things that you do in your mastermind and your info marketing for companies that are looking at marketing and setting up these same systems. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, I provide different value to different people. Different people are looking for different things, but I've had more failures than successes. That's also the beauty of being a small business owner, is it doesn't take too many successes to offset a lot of failure.
Right.
We kind of fail forward is what I teach. But at the same point, there's lessons in every single one, and you don't make the same mistake again. And as you bring other business owners together, you're able to prevent those failures in other people's companies and learn from those lessons logically rather than living through it, which is huge.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's incredible advice. I think that what we're talking about here is something that everyone experiences. Every successful business has failed 100 times, at little things and big things, and it's just how you react to that, how quickly you can pivot, as you mentioned earlier. I think those are a couple of really incredible stories. And, personally, I tell this story a lot, but I had the power of one as well, and now I have the power of like 5 or 6 because that power of one got taken away from me because I had no control over, the website where I was using this particular marketing strategy. And so it had worked for a few years, and I was doing really, really well. The business was growing, and then overnight, the rug gets pulled out from under you. So you really need to be able to fall back on a few of your other streams of lead generation, in my case.
Well, sure, and there's
Yeah,
so many other ways too, and everyone's going to experience it in one way or another in their business, regardless of how many red flags there are. Sometimes we just let things go. It's not important at the moment. It could be one staff member, one contractor, one lead
right.
source like you had. I mean, there's so many areas that are susceptible to something like that, and yeah, we got to look at them and evaluate how important it is, and there's still obviously built-in risk with being an entrepreneur, but that's what makes us crazy and what makes it fun.
Well, yeah, and I know that most entrepreneurs, I mean, you could say to them, hey, look, I noticed this, this, and this on your website that you should change. And, they might say, yeah, I know about that, but I have like a list of priorities 20 deep, and, that's not the hottest one compared to, these other 19. So, it's really about prioritizing, finding the things that are going to make the biggest difference. They say small hinges swing big doors, so sometimes you can fix a few little things, and it really makes a big difference in turning around your business. So I think that's fantastic. Now, in the questionnaire I sent out to you, you were talking about how to really get life out of your business. And I know we've touched on a lot of really interesting topics here. I don't want to take this away from you if there was another story or another point you wanted to make on breathing life into a business.
Well, the book I wrote when I started the Profit 911 company, the subtitle is something exceedingly long that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's basically get more customers, more cash while working less and reducing stress. And I was kind
Right,
of writing that to myself at the time because we were
right.
doing great. But I had hit the limit for hours. There was just a ton of stress to continue operating, and as much as we brought in, there was still a ton more than I'd like going out. So behind that book, the common theme really is to put things in place that are scalable, can be duplicated, and don't require a ton of your time and intervention. Sometimes I think success is a failure for people at some point. And anything I build now, after I've learned those lessons the hard way, I don't go anywhere near anything that's going to require, all me, all me, all me. So that's really how we breathe life back in, is we have the systems from day one, and if we don't, and we realize that in one area, we correct it as soon as possible.
Exactly. I mean, once you can do, I think that's really hard for a lot of people. For me, I was doing everything by myself for years, and once I started letting go of the reins a little bit, giving it to someone else, and getting help in a couple areas of my business, I wasn't doing all the mundane tasks anymore. I was doing more of the big thinking and what's coming next with our marketing and sales and that sort of thing, and doing that for my clients. And now all the little things, get taken care of by a couple of my team members, and that has really made a huge difference.
Well, it's a lot easier for someone from me to come in from the outside of your business and see it than you can. And you have to really look at the why of what you've chosen to do with your time, and that's tough. I'll give you an example that seems a little trickier, but everyone's going to feel the same way about their business. So, disc jockeys. I work with wedding DJs, and most of them toy with the idea of bringing in more staff at some point as they get busy. I need more DJs. but I'm the best DJ in the company, and people want me. And that's the challenge we have, is trying to get past that mindset and trying to let them realize that yes, they're very good, but other people can be good too. And it's what the customer thinks that ultimately makes that decision. But yeah, we have to. That's a huge hurdle for them because it's talent based.
Right.
They're thinking like actor. Like, okay, I'm Tom Cruise. No one can replace Tom Cruise. Yeah, to an extent, but we're in wedding disc jockey world. It's a little different.
Yeah.
um,
Right.
so I help people get over that hurdle too. And I got over it in my business too. I had the same thing, and then I hired more people, and then I'm like, well, I'll charge more for me than the other people. Okay, well,
Right.
that just inherently wanted people to hire me more, even at the price. So that didn't work.
Wow.
Eventually, I got to the point where the other DJs were better than me. But until that point, it was, what do they specialize in? What areas are they better than me? But yeah, I became a point where I actually just DJ'd for a friend, an old staff member, about a month ago. I had to do that, and I hadn't DJ'd in 5 years, so it was kind of
Wow.
funny.
Good.
It is a skill set, but he got I'm sure he got a kick out of that, putting me through that, because he was a DJ for us for a long, long time. But
That's
yeah, I wasn't the best DJ in the company at this point, I'll tell you that, but it didn't matter.
well, that's not what you wanted to do, so that's fine.
No,
Um,
yeah. A lot of people love that and love the weddings, and I did too. But I really love the business side more, and I've pushed into different things too. I was a stage hypnotist for a while. I did those. That was fun, which, by the way, plays really well into marketing, understanding hypnosis and influence.
oh yeah.
Um, but I just pushed towards things that interested me, and it's always kind of been the game of how do we get more business and how do we structure that.
Absolutely. So another question I like to ask, and I know we're kind of pushing up against 3 o'clock. I like to ask, what are the marketing tactics that you use, the combination of marketing tactics that seem to work the best? Now, it's just that there's so many things you can do, and even in your funnels, you've already mentioned, texting and mailing and emails, possibly getting a human involved and making a phone call. I mean, what is the combination that works best for you to help simplify it for some of the audience members that might be wondering what your take is on this?
Let me shift the question for me to, since a lot of people are likely going to answer that with getting customers, let me shift it to what happens after the sale, because I believe that's still marketing. And I think it's
Okay.
just as important as what happens before the sale. So
Yeah,
in all my companies, we would have, you can call it whatever you want, or new customer orientation, new customer welcome, whatever. We would have a funnel, a sequence, a campaign in place that took them through welcoming them into explaining how things work, into really the XYZ of what's going to happen next, which was
yeah,
all important. But there were two key things in there that were present in all of them that if you don't have these in place, you should do immediately. And the first one is in the PS of the first welcome email. So the first welcome email really was just, thanks for booking us. Here's 3 things we believe in. Yada yada yada. It's really the nice feel-good email. But in the PS was something that seemed simple but helped us a ton. In the PS, it asked, can you just reply real quick and let me know why you decided to do business with us? So simple, but at this point they can answer honestly because they've already made their decision. And what we got back in that was what we would turn around and market to. So people would answer, we really liked when we met with so-and-so in the consultation, they made us feel at ease. So business owner says, okay, how do we make people feel more at ease? Or we really liked your communication beforehand. Okay, how can we duplicate that going forward? That question was huge in every business because sometimes what we thought was important really wasn't why people spent money with us.
right.
So that was number one that should be in place and is so easy to do. The second one was a physical gift, a welcome gift. And our most common, our default one, barring anything special or an exceedingly valuable customer, was to send some brownies. And this was completely automated in our system. So I wasn't baking brownies. I wasn't going to the store and shopping for them. It was just a card with their name in it, thanking them, and some brownies.
Mhm.
Um, And there were a couple emails around it to let them know to expect something on their porch, kind of build up some excitement. And then an email to make sure they got it, so if they didn't, we could send them some more. But we probably get more responses to sending those brownies than anything else we do. Just people thanking us, yes, they were delicious, because it's unexpected, and it doesn't cost us that much. I think including postage is probably $10.
Right.
And these are people that spent somewhere between $800 and $5,000 with us, so $10 seems pretty reasonable to me. And we get in the wedding side of the business where we use this, and I've used this in almost any business because it works fine. But in the wedding side, we'd always get the emails back from the brides that, thank you, they were delicious. You've absolutely blown my wedding diet, and I won't fit in my wedding dress now. That was our most common response.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But,
That's
yeah,
funny
some
you
sort
say
of
that, because when I used to, whenever I needed to find a job and I worked in the corporate world, I would send brownies or some kind of food to them after the interview with a personalized card that had like their picture, my picture, I'm looking forward to joining the family kind of a thing. Like everyone that interviewed me would be on the card, everyone would get it. So yeah, and I would get a job offer probably 90% of the time. So that stuff that makes you stand out, it really, really works.
So if anyone wants something out of me, send me brownies first, and then no one sends the business owner brownies, I will tell you that. We send them also for staff birthdays, by the way, which if you have staff, that's another really good one. And we would send gifts to welcome new staff members. So I work with a lot of millennials in our company. That's pretty much all we employed was millennials, and I think no one besides myself over the age of 30, I think. But we would always send them a welcome to the team card with some sort of gift. And the funny part is most of they were high school or college students, so they were still living at home for the most part, and their parents would intercept these. And if you want to win goodwill with the millennials' parents, that's the way to do it.
Wow.
If you have the parent on your side, that really helps you with a lot of things millennials are known for being bad at.
Oh yeah.
So there's another tip if you're employing that age group. There's an instant way to get rapport with the family.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm glad that we've got that under our belts. Okay, so talk about what you're offering the audience today. I know that we're sending them to your, I've got it on here, we're sending them to a link with Profit 911 on it. If people need help with their Infusionsoft or their funnels, maybe explain a little bit to the audience what you're offering them.
Sure. If you go to the link, it's actually going to take you straight to my scheduler, so don't expect to see anything there besides a calendar. But if you want to, you're welcome to make an appointment with me. And what we will do is we're going to dig in and see if automation is appropriate for you. See if you have any processes that could be streamlined so you don't have to do them over and over, and what it would look like to you to put that in place. If anyone has Infusionsoft, I'm an Infusionsoft certified partner as well, so if you're already using Infusionsoft, I'm happy to spend 30, 60 minutes just talking about improving what you're doing, since a lot of people go in there and get scared, but that's not necessarily what this is about. There's a lot of other tools and techniques as well. So it's really just my time for your viewers. Schedule a time in there. We'll dig into your business processes a little, what you want to accomplish, see if we can get some hours back out of your day for you. That's the ultimate goal. And if there's some way I can help you with that, that'll be great. But even if there's not, you'll get some value and some things you can put in place in your business.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. So everyone, just please go to the link that we have on there with Profit 911 on it. And that is going to be, if you're watching this live, that's just going to be in the Facebook post. If you are reading an article later, that is going to be in the article section. So we'll hopefully you've enjoyed this awesome interview. Justin, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing so many personal stories and interesting stories about successes and failures and ways to overcome that by automating your business, and really, talking about long-term business success by using those kinds of processes. Really, really appreciate your time today, Justin.
It's been a lot of fun, and I deal with some unique businesses, so hopefully there's some different examples than you're used to hearing.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's very helpful. I think it's really cool. So also on the link there, if you haven't gotten the Seven Sizzling Secrets book on video marketing, you can pick that up. And besides that, this is Erica Del Signore. I am the founder of Daily Lead Campaign. We just interviewed Justin Miller on the Great Minds, Great Marketing interview series, and looking forward to bringing you more incredibly bright entrepreneurs just like Justin in the near future. I will look forward to talking to you all later. Thank you so much.
Thank you.